In a world of forced reset triggers, does a binary trigger like the Fostech Echo trigger here, is it still useful? Well, this is something that I got when I very first got into guns, and I shoot it mostly in semi-auto now, but I have upgraded this trigger quite a bit, and we're gonna work on a few things today. For one thing, it's really good at mag dumping into Halloween pumpkins, and we will get to that. But I also think it's nice because it has 3 positions, and so you do have a standard semi-auto as well. So we're gonna do single shots, we're gonna do double taps, and we're gonna do some mag dumping. Try double taps. Oh, gassy girl. Welcome back to Sawtooth Tactical. I had a lot of fun at the range today because I was shooting this, my 11.5 inch. First time I actually shot it suppressed, and I felt like I needed to because this one still had a clean muzzle device. I've ran this Polonium K on all my other 5.56 guns, but it was time to try it out on the 11.5. But also because this gun has the Fostech Echo 2 AR trigger in it, which is a binary trigger. It was one of the first things that I ever got as a gun owner years ago before this channel even started. And I don't shoot it often enough anymore, and I wanted to remind myself why. Why a binary trigger? In a world with FRT triggers, is a binary trigger, does it still make sense? And I gotta tell you, it sure is still a hell of a lot of fun, and I think there are some good reasons for it. So if that's interesting to you, make sure you're subscribed, and let's begin. This video is brought to you by Stopbox, and this one specifically, with this coated cable here, stays in my truck. And it's coming with me on a trip next week, and the reason why is because then, besides my carry gun, I can keep a bigger pistol with me wherever I go. This cable mounts under the front driver's seat of my truck. And if I need to get to something a little bit bigger with more firepower than my carry gun, I have it available quick and easy, no electronics, no batteries, very simple, very fast. This is the first time I've ran this suppressor on the 11.5 here, and I think I need a heavier buffer. This thing is gassy. My eyes are watering. Doubles. Binary triggers have been a thing for a few years now, and they are 100% legal. And this 11.5 inches is a Palmetto State Armory 11.5 inch AR pistol that I've SBR'd, suppressed, rattle can job, the whole 9 yards. I've had this thing for a long time, and I got it specifically as a host for the Fostech Echo trigger here. There's 2 companies mainly that make binary triggers. That would be Franklin Armory and Fostech, and I chose Fostech. And the whole reason I got this was because at the time I thought that it was the closest thing you could get that was almost like full fun, but you know, you didn't need an SOT to have it, or you know, spend tens of thousands of dollars on a transferable machine gun. And so I thought it was the coolest idea ever. And when I first installed it in this thing, I ran it in binary mode all the time. And I got pretty good at it when I was doing it all the time. You can run this thing pretty fast, especially with the upgrades I've put in it. I got a bushing from Militia State Armory and a spring from Trigger Depot. You switch out a spring that's in the trigger pack itself, you add this bushing, and it makes the trigger much, much better. But there's a few reasons that I think binary trigger still makes a lot of sense these days, even with forced reset triggers out. One of them being, well, forced reset triggers have had kind of a rocky legal history. They are totally legal now, but there's been, you know, the ATF has gone after them, and they haven't gone after binary triggers. Let's get into the rest of the reasons, but before we do, let's have a quick word from our channel partner. This video is sponsored by Aura. You will never be able to afford a Staccato XC if you're getting hit with scammers all the time, and Aura takes care of that for you. In fact,
They take care of all of your online security all in one place. You get a VPN, you get home title monitoring, parental controls, but the big one is you get data broker removal. Now, what does that mean? Aura goes online, you take just a couple minutes to set it all up, and then they scour the dark web, the regular internet, everything out there, and they find anywhere where your data has been leaked. And they submit opt-out requests on your behalf, which removes you from any of those lists. And what that does is it removes you from lists that are accessed by scammers and by spammers, and more than that as well. But I've been using it for about 7 months now. And you know what? I used to get calls all the time, people trying to scam me through my debit card, through my bank account, and it caused me a lot of problems at one point. I don't get those anymore, and I haven't gotten those calls in 7 months. I also don't get spam calls anymore. I don't get spam emails anymore. All of that stuff has been gone from my life, and it's really nice just to know that my information isn't out there anymore, and that I don't have to worry about getting scammed anymore, and I'm not receiving spam anymore. Those are the biggest things that Aura has done for me, which honestly has really improved my life and just kind of puts me at ease. And they can do the same for you. If you use my link down below, aura.com/sawtooth-tactical, you get 2 weeks free trial. That's 14 days to try it out and see if you like it. If you do want to stick with it, it's only $12 a month after that. And you get all of those things that I talked about earlier and more. I think that it is absolutely worth it. I appreciate them for sponsoring the channel. Now back to your regular scheduled program. We stepped it back just a little bit. Gonna see if those double taps are still just as easy to keep on target. Should we go farther back or do a magnum? Oh, my eyes. So besides the legality issues of FRTs, which again, right now, they're totally legal, but they're not easy to find and they're very, very expensive if you do. Now, Rare Breed is planning to, start manufacturing and sales again as soon as they can. So I do believe that they will be available. But the biggest reason that I never bought a forced reset trigger at the time, it had nothing to do with legality because they were legal. It had to do with the fact that you didn't get 3 positions on your selector. It was safe and it was fire in forced reset mode. And while that is a lot of fun, I learned from having this binary trigger that it is really nice to be able to select regular old standard semi-automatic. And over the years of having this gun with the binary trigger in it, I have actually come to the point where I use regular semi-automatic a lot more than binary mode. But today, I shot it in binary mode because that was the whole point of this video, and it reminded me how fun it is. But besides just fun, is it useful? Well, I think it is for a lot of things. So what I used to always do with it was literally just for fun. Binary mode, Magnum full 30 round magazines. Now that gets expensive pretty quickly. I mean, you're gonna shoot that whole magazine anyway, but when the whole magazine goes in a couple of seconds, if you do that over and over again, that adds up. That is kind of the most fun thing you can do with it though. But besides that, so this is the whole thing about it. The Fostech Echo trigger, when I got it, it was very heavy, very spongy. I put in those 2 upgrades, the Militia State Armory bushing and the Trigger Depot spring. And you can actually get a kit from Militia State Armory that has both of those parts in it. And it made the trigger so much better. So check it out in semi mode now. It's super light. It's less than 2 pounds. I've measured it a bunch of times. Then it resets, breaks. Now, if you put it in binary mode, then what you get is trigger breaks. And then when you let go of it, the hammer falls again. And so every time the bolt carrier group cycles, whether you pull the trigger or you release the trigger, if you're in binary mode, being the 3rd position on your selector, it fires around. Now that can be useful for a few reasons. Now, like I said, generally I shoot this in semi now, because I like to have control over my rounds, and honestly, I'm a better shooter than I was than when I first got this trigger, and I have more fun shooting accurately now than just mag dumping. A little farther back here. The thing is, there are uses besides just mag dumping for fun for that third position. Today I tried out a lot of double taps from different distances, and it was very, very easy to keep both rounds on steel because you're getting your trigger pull and your second shot as quickly as what you would normally get one shot. And so instead of having to pull the trigger twice for that double tap, you just pull and release very quickly. And as long as you are, doing decent recoil control, both rounds are going to be on target. I think that could be very useful defensively. 2 rounds are better than 1. I mean, yeah, 2 rounds are better than 1. There's a reason that people practice double taps. And so if you can keep both those rounds on target, I think that is very useful. Now, one thing I did find today, this was the first time that I ran this suppressor on this gun. I've ran this suppressor on all of my other 5.56 ARs, but I haven't shot this gun in a while, and it was time to finally put it on this one. Well, all the other ones I have tuned to run suppressed, and this one still has a regular carbine buffer and spring in it, and whew, it was gassy, especially doing lots of double taps or mag dumping with it. It kind of gassed me out today, more than it does on the Mark 18, on the 14.5 inch, on anything else. And so I do think that this gun, it might be time to get a Geisley Super 42, probably an H3 buffer for the 11.5 inch here, and tune it to run suppressed, because now that I've got this can, I don't really see a reason to run any of my rifles unsuppressed at this point. And so that was a big thing I noticed today, is if you are shooting fast and you are doing it suppressed, you are going to get a lot of gas to the face. Now, one other little issue I had that probably added to that today, just to fit it in my rifle case, I collapsed my stock all the way and I forgot to extend it at the range. And so I did kind of have my nose right up on the opening at the charging handle. But you'll see in the footage today, there is smoke all around my head the whole time I was shooting. At the same time, it still was a lot of fun. And I found that you can do double taps and controlled bursts very easily. Pull the trigger and release twice, you get 4 rounds very quickly. And as long as you're controlling recoil well, those 4 rounds will be on target. I do think with the right buffer and spring to run this thing suppressed, controlling recoil will be even easier. But to be quite honest, 5.56, especially with a can on the end, recoil is not bad. One of the great things about the Fostech Echo, or any binary trigger, I think, is that you do have 3 positions. So you do have standard semi-auto if you want it. Now, toward the end of my range session with this thing today, I did just give in to, those intrusive thoughts and mag dumped a whole 30-round mag into a pumpkin. I figured, what better way to get rid of the Halloween pumpkins, better than letting them rot on the front steps to my house, than mag dump a magazine of 5.56 into the pumpkin with the binary trigger. And you'll see in this video the kind of damage that does. 30 rounds on target that quickly does a lot of damage. And the big thing with that is that it's just fun. So is a binary trigger still worth it these days? Well, you have to look at it this way. It's going to cost less than a forced reset trigger. So there you have one, good reason to have it. But for 2, you get 3 positions. I think that that's very important. And I know that there are kits to make forced reset triggers 3 position. But so far, generally with the FRT and the WOT, they were a 2 position trigger. I think having 3 positions is very important. I think that having a force reset trigger would be a lot of fun, but I still want to have regular semi-automatic mode. One trigger pull, one round, release the trigger, and it resets. I think that it is important, especially on any gun that you might use defensively, to be able to have that accurate semi-automatic mode. I really do think that that's important, and I think that that is a good reason to get a binary trigger if you want to scratch that itch of, near full auto, but not full auto, but also be able to use your rifle standard semi-auto the way you would normally use it anyway. And you can do that with this. Now, if you do get a Fostech Echo trigger like I have, I don't have experience with the Franklin Armory trigger, but I think that it is pretty good too. From what I hear from people that do have it, I do recommend those upgrades from Militia State Armory, Trigger Depot. This trigger comes to you very heavy and spongy and squishy, but you replace that spring and you add that bushing and it becomes a very light, very usable trigger in both semi-auto and in binary mode. Singles and doubles are all good, but the biggest thing that this is for fun. So this is the best way to take care of a Halloween pumpkin after the holiday is over. This is the first time that I've ran the binary trigger with the Polonium K suppressor, and it is gassy. So we'll see if I can handle a whole mag dump with it. Look at that thing now. That's what 30 rounds of 55 grain will do to a pumpkin. Holy crap. Oh. I'm not sure that I would choose a binary trigger as my only trigger on my only AR. But I think that if you have a bunch of other ARs that are your, main defensive guns, like my two main defensive guns are the Mark 18 and the 14.5 inch. And then these other ones I can kind of play around with. The 16 inch, I've been trying out a longer range scope on it. The 11.5 inch, got the binary trigger. And, to be honest, my optics aren't up as high as I would like them to be. I think that every gun that you have should be capable of being a defensive gun. It needs to be reliable and shootable. But I also think that guns are fun, and that's kind of the whole point of mag dumping into the pumpkin at the end of the shooting session today. If you want to have some fun and you're okay with spending a bunch of money on ammo, and you don't want a two-position, selector with an FRT, or you don't want to have to worry about possible future changes in legality, which, I think at this point, they're gonna be just legal. They've been proven to be semi-automatic triggers, but still, I understand what some people, why they would worry about that. I do think that a binary trigger is a pretty cool thing to have on one of your guns. I think it's perfect on this 11.5 inch. This isn't a gun that I'm gonna shoot out to great distances or use for precision work. It's nice and short, and, it's a PSA. I'm cool with kind of beating the hell out of it. This is the second bolt carrier group that I've had in this gun because I've ran it so hard in binary mode so much when I first got it. And so I broke the original bolt, and that's fine. The thing about ARs is that you can change parts very easily. So even something as important as your bolt, well, all you gotta do is pull it out, drop a new one in. If I burn out this barrel, I'm okay with that. I can get a new 11.5 inch barrel and replace it. And, part of what makes me go shooting is that it's enjoyable, it's fun. And so if you want to have something that just makes shooting more fun, I see nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, I do think that it has its uses. I think those quick double taps that are easy to keep on target, or even,
Quadruple taps, like a controlled burst with the binary, is a very easy thing to do. And I think that if you did have to use that in a defensive situation like that, I think that that would be very, very effective. So if you enjoyed this video, please give me a like. Make sure you subscribe to Sawtooth Tactical and let me know down in the comments, do you have a forced reset trigger or a binary trigger, or neither? Do you have experience with them? And do you agree with my take on this or not? I would love to hear from you. And from Sawtooth Tactical, stay strapped or get clapped.